Welcome to Just Wanna Quilt, a research podcast coming out of Tulane University Law School, where we explore all kinds of things, stories about quilting, tools, field trips, maybe some famous quilters stop by, and of course a little bit of copyright thrown in just for fun. I'm Elizabeth Townsend Guard, your host. I'm a law professor at Tulane University Law School, and I just wanna quilt. So today we talk to Georgina Lewis. She is on and doing an experiment herself. So she has been looking at quilt shops and social media. She's a professional person who works in social media for big gargantuan companies. And she's been looking at, her mom has a quilt shop online, and so she started to think about what it is to have social media for quilt shops. And so we talked with her about what she's been learning and doing for the last year, and she's just we're going to have her back. It's really interesting. I can't wait for you to hear.
Hi, this is Georgina Lewis.
Fabulous. And where are you calling from?
I'm calling today from Jacksonville, Florida.
Oh, fabulous. And tell me your first memory of someone sewing or quilting in your life.
So my first memory is my grandmother sewing when I was around 8 years old.
And tell me what's in that memory. Tell me more about that.
Well, I remember, my grandmother would always sew. She'd sew everything. We sewed our clothes, or she would mend stuff, and she was a preacher's wife. So, we had a lot of people in her network of friends that were always helping us learn to do different things. And she was quite a great sewer, seamstress at the time. So I remember at Christmas that year, I was maybe a little older. I think I was about 13 years old. And my younger sister, we got these envelopes at Christmas time from her, and I thought they were money. I was so excited. I opened them up, and there were 8-week sewing lesson classes.
Oh, wow.
And I was so upset.
Really?
I was just like, yes, I was 13 years old, and I was like devastated. I had to go sew with a bunch of old ladies at the time. And they, that just wasn't thrilling for a 13-year-old. However, I learned so much, and it became a life skill, and I sewed my clothes all the way up until, my early 20s, all the way through college.
That's amazing.
And I learned everything. Like, I learned how to sew, my bathing suits was difficult, to do with, I just learned how to sew all different kinds of materials. So it was wonderful.
That's really amazing. That's really great. And so when did you start getting in? Do you like quilting? Do you quilt? When did you get into quilting if you are a quilter?
Okay, so I have not been quilting except for a year.
Really?
And and it's really funny because I did a case study. So my mother owns a quilt shop, and only 5 people know that until now. Now, when they hear this podcast, a lot of people know that. And before we get started, I'd like to thank and say hello to all my Facebook groups. So I have the Case Facet Mystery Quilt Support Group online, and the Petite and Artisan Quilt Group, and then the Shop Owner Group. And I just wanted to say hi to everyone who's listening to the podcast, and thank you so much for being a part of my family on the World Wide Web.
So just in case people want to know what you just said, and because it was fast, the Case Fawcett, say it one more time so that people, if they're interested, can start to look around while you're talking. So the Case Fawcett.
So there's like a little story with it. Would you like me to jump into that?
Totally wanted you to jump into that. Go for it.
Okay, so I am a social media consultant and brand expert for large corporations. I grew up on IBM VAR, value-added reseller, and software engineer, and developed a lot of heavy-duty software that currently runs in the manufacturing plants of Orc vacuum cleaners, Birkenstock shoes, those kinds of companies, and they're wonderful, wonderful clients. But I left that world right before the recession. I sold that business and became a branding website designer. And we have a company that goes out and works with large companies on how they, rebrand themselves. A couple of years ago, and I'm a national speaker. I do a lot of philanthropic work, and I teach other college students and adults how to, develop websites properly, how to get to the top of Google, I stay on the bleeding edge, not leading edge, bleeding edge of technology. And a couple years ago, my mother called and said, I'm going to open an online quilt shop, and I want to do 30 kits of K-Facet. This was last year. And I said, you're not going to do 30 kits. If you're going to do it, you're going to do much more than that. But if I help you, I'm going to help other women as well, and other
really
men
cool.
or couples or whoever,
Right.
young entrepreneurs, and help them, grow their business.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it became, I do these case studies online and Facebook. I'm rebranding a product right now called Speed Sleep, and it's a holistic product that walks you through how to go to sleep. And so when I started that project about a year ago, I have a staff that could do Facebook, but I said I'm going to do this myself. And it's really because I need to really kind of understand the market before I can advise a client XYZ.
Right.
And it's more of like mindfulness type of programs where it walks you through, and boom, the Facebook group went to 15,000 followers just like that once we converted the product to mindfulness. So I'm like, okay, Mom, if you want to go online quilting and you want to pick up Free Spirit and you want to do K-Faucet, then we're going to not just do 30 of his inaugural kits, but we're going to see what we can do. But every kit I sell for you, I'm going to sell to other shop owners, because that's just very empowerment like that. And I need to be unbiased in that project if I'm going to really explore it. So
let me ask you a question. So why did you want to expand to other shops? So that's interesting to me. Was that to increase the revenue, the generating of revenue, or sort of what was the motivation behind that? Because
that's what I do. Like my clientele are owners.
Yeah.
They're entrepreneurs, right?
Right.
I don't think there's, my intent wasn't I haven't monetized that group in the kind of revenues that I make consulting with these other large organizations, like, Lift Power, who's a huge forklift company. They're a great client of ours. But that's not my focus. My focus is always, no matter when I start something, is I have to do research.
Yeah.
Like, I don't believe, and I teach that to my clients. Like, if they pick us up as a customer, we will not pick a project if we don't research their market, because you can't service that well.
Yeah.
So really, I can't have one single source telling me what they want to do if I don't really understand the market.
Right.
That's just not how we work.
Uh-huh.
So I started a Facebook group, and it's the K-Facet Mystery Quilt Support Group, which we recently just renamed. But so I started this group in December, and we invited maybe 100 people in, and by January 12th, we have 2,500 loyal fans of the KFC brand.
Yeah.
And they have kits coming out, and I start connecting personally. People would PM me or go on the wall, and I would research shops, and I would take screenshots just from my research of what they were promoting with the kit to make sure everything was even across the board. Yeah. So if someone didn't say they were going to include everything that was in the kit or make a fake kit, they weren't getting on my list. And I'm very black and white in that way.
Yeah.
So, because it has to be equal. Everyone has to, the integrity has to be there. And I would put the list up, and then people would PM me. And I personally have sold to date 2,700 kits.
Wow. That's amazing.
Our group sold Free Spirit out of their supply a week before their deadline. And so then they added the pastel colorway, 1,000 kits. And our group bought up through their shops. So they would call their shops, and shops would PM me, or I would help connect them and find a shop. And we sold out those 1,000 within like 4 or 5 days. And then they added another August wave. So
let me ask you.
It was really interesting.
Yeah, let me ask you a couple questions with that. So first of all, when you started to do the K-Faucet Mystery Support Group, did you contact Free Spirit before you did it, or did you know like you could do that because it was a nominative use of, it was a support group for his fabric, so you weren't concerned with using his name in your group?
So I'm not concerned because I understand the rules.
Yeah.
I understand.
Me too.
I understand. Not a lot of people don't they don't understand the rules, but I do. I understand you have to clearly identify that it's a support group.
Right.
On my page policies, I have these rules, and number 7 clearly says we're not the official support group of Free Spirit, and here's, da 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 da. At the time, they didn't have their page up, but it's always been clear if you read the rules, and when you answer the 3 questions to get into the group, it says you agree to read the rules, that I'm not the official, Free Spirit wall.
Got it.
But I do promote it, and being a support group really is kind of a common phrase, not maybe in quilting, but in the World Wide Web, that says we are just a group of fans that we're going to help each other.
And fan groups can exist because that's our world. Our intellectual property laws allow for fan groups, right? So that's
right.
super important. How important do you think fan groups are to brands at this point in terms of what you see in your business, in your professional hat?
Well, that's a great question, because 4 years ago I would not have said that they were that important. And there's a whole nother hour segment probably we could do on this topic, but I will say some very important things about this is that, I go to a conference called the Social Media Examiner Conference, and it's in San Francisco every year, San Diego. It's in the West Coast, and it's around March, April. The best conference of everyone in this industry. And they started talking about influencers and how big influencers have become.
Yeah.
And I don't think people have referred to me recently as being an influencer, and I don't view myself as an influencer. I view myself as someone who's having fun, and I might be the Indian chief of the Indians, but really we have a great family.
Yeah.
And we all live by the same rules, and we don't allow negativity into our group. And there's a lot of places in Facebook that people vent, but that's not going to be this group because life's too hard. Yeah. And we have, so what I did in the group and how we really kind of grew it so quickly, because I think I had to change the name recently because Facebook gives you one last pass before you hit 5,000 members, and then you can't change it again. So we pulled the word mystery out because we do so much more case than just the mystery now. But, what I decided to do early on was there were some great shop owners that came to me and said, I want to participate.
Yeah.
And I said, great, let's run contests. And as we run the different contests, all of you all will donate and be my featured shop owner of the month. So we have about 6 featured shop owners now, and they all sponsor contests. And they're fun contests. They're like a video people do of how they open their first kit when it comes. So we'll call it like a block of the month, but it's a mystery quilt, so it's a kit. And they did all these fabulous videos, and then my team would take it and make it into a video of themselves, and people love to see themselves on the World Wide Web. I mean, that's, I think, the biggest mistake that I'm finding with shop owners is that they try to go in and control the groups instead of letting the groups morph and evolve into something better.
Right.
And the shop owners always advertise about themselves, and it's not about us. Right? People are selfish on the World Wide Web. If you can realize that if you become a giver and not a taker, you'll be successful. If you're a taker and trying to control that whole environment, you're not going to grow successfully in your group. So that was my case study. And then the people at the quilt market asked me to speak. So I'm a speaker in November. And so all of this is really kind of the study behind my presentation this November, which is going to be 3 recurring revenues for shop owners to make money while they sleep.
That's great. That's super great.
Yep.
I mean, that's what really, this is all. So one of the questions I have is, how did you turn your group? First of all, I'd like to know more how you grew your group, but also how did you turn your group into a buying power? Like, that's what I keep saying. Like, as I see these other groups where they'll have like giveaways and like they'll have like 30,000 people or 70,000 people, and they get a very small percentage actually participating. And in the experiment that I'm doing, I really want our group to be a force, an army. We call ourselves a quilting army, right? And so how do you mobilize your army, and how did you get them to be, but they wanted to buy these kits. So how did you, tell me a little bit more about why your group is different, because that's really huge. I think.
Well, I think and the petite group is growing rapidly, and they have a different identity. And I think, that's kind of the key that I'm trying to teach these shop owners. And it's irrelevant to me if you're a shop owner or a business owner or, like Frank Prince who owns Speed Sleep. Everyone has to realize the same thing, and that everyone has a vote. Your consumers, this is why you were asking me about influencers, and I don't think I'm an influencer. I think my group is an influencer, and I think I'm just the voice of the people, and that the consumers, this is what I love. Manufacturers, they're my customers. So my customers are large manufacturers, and but I'm also their biggest critic, because the world has changed and they have to adjust with it.
Totally.
And one of the misnomers that we have is that 10 years ago, it was a top-to-down model. It is manufacturers pushing and dictating to shop owners, in this example, shop owners dictating to consumers, but the social media has empowered the consumers to have a voice. And I'm a consumer, which is interesting. I've started quilting again so I could have a perspective from many different facets of this project, right?
Yep.
So as a consumer, I hear the voice of these other consumers, and they'll come to me and they lean on me, and they expect me to help them, and I want to help them. And it's interesting because the shop owners come to me. So what I was saying about this being a top-to-down model has changed. Social media
It's changed
and
everything,
people uniting together, they now have a voice, and it's horizontal, it's not vertical.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Everyone's level on an equal playing field, and consumers are demanding a fair share of, you can't hoard the money at any one level. It all has to be even, because the consumer will find a fair price.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, I think we're kind of on the same path. It's so interesting we're doing it at the same time. We should totally write something together, because
I'd love to.
Because it seemed almost surprising to people that I wanted to interview regular quilters like me. Like, that's part of what the project has been about, is this kind of like, well, who are we? And is there any great divide between those that are the pattern makers and those that buy the patterns, right? And I'm finding very little divide, I have to say. And it's the shift in, I mean, other communities have already done have recognized the importance of user-generated culture and the impact of social media. And I'm wondering if you feel like the quilting industry is there yet, or if they're lagging behind.
They're definitely lagging behind. Yeah. I love these manufacturers. It takes a lot to be a manufacturer, because I see that, because I work with them every day.
Yeah.
That's really my market from Shazam Media, my branding company. But I'll tell you that the shop owners are struggling, and I see they're struggling. And I have shop owners come to me and they say, they'll spam the heck out of my wall, and I'll go delete it all and then mute them, and they get mad and they leave, and that's fine, because that's not what we're about.
Yeah.
But then I have these beautiful shop owners that come to me and say, I want to learn. And let me tell you the magic that's happened in this group. I have had these shop owners come to me, and Scott has come in and taken over and bought Free Spirit. Thank you, Lord. We're so blessed.
Yeah.
Because he has saved.
Right. So who you're talking about is Scott Fortunoff, who's been on our show and has been super generous to our project. Right. So tell me a little bit. Right. He's very much out there as a persona at the moment for Free Spirit. He does a ton of Facebook stuff, and he's out in the world. What do you think about that approach that they're taking at Free Spirit?
You're going to get me in trouble. I like Scott. He and I are acquaintances. Yeah. I think he's doing a fabulous job. Yeah. I'm grateful, as I know many consumers are, that he has come in and taken over Free Spirit. Yeah. And I know the employees at Free Spirit have shared with me that they are so grateful that he has come in. And he has a mess to clean up. I'm not the kind of person to beat around the bush. He has a mess to clean up. Yeah. There's delays. Fabrics are being shipped that are different colors of the same print. and the color's off. I mean, he's got some things he's got to tighten
because Jaftex bought a company that was in trouble. It's going to take time for it. That's what you're saying, that because they bought Free Spirit was having problems, and it's like buying a fixer-upper house, right? It's got some good bones, but
absolutely
right.
And because I work with manufacturers a lot, I know it takes time, but the consumers are impatient, right? Mm-hmm. And the person that gets caught in the middle are the shop owners. That's the problem. Yeah. And here's the other problem. I think Scott's headed down the right way, but I think that many manufacturers are trying to control the message. And the problem is, if you put something out there and you say all of June whatever has shipped and it hasn't, then the consumers find that out within minutes because they're stalkers. They know what's going on. Be thankful to this new social media world. So what happens is the shop owner looks bad because they don't have it to deliver it and it wasn't shipped to them. Yeah. And I've had shop owners call me literally on the phone a couple weeks ago in tears going, if I didn't have you to talk to, I'd be in tears. She was crying. She was, I don't know what I would do. Yeah. She was, I'm in tears because I don't have anyone. You're it. And these are women and men older couples that have come to me with their shops online and said, can you help me sell this kit? And I matched all these kits to consumers and sold them and never asked for a penny. Amazing. Because, I'm learning and I want them all to survive and I want them to meet each other and grow them. But I shouldn't be their sounding board. I shouldn't be their only go-to.
So I'm really curious about this. First of all, I'm so surprised. I mean, it's not negative, but I'm really surprised that we still have the small independent quilt shops, that there isn't that a major brand, that branding hasn't occurred on a national level for quilt shops. Do you have a sense of why that is? I mean, it's not against the little shops. It just feels like it's one of the very last vestiges of this in our culture.
I think there's a movement that's already happened. I don't think manufacturers have seen it. I think manufacturers see that their messages are getting out and they want to control the message like they used to, and they can't. Consumers are smart. They're going to know stuff before you. It doesn't take much to figure out 2 + 2 = 4. Yeah. And so the other thing is, I think what Scott's doing, I really applaud. He's going to the brick and mortar stores, which we all love our brick and mortar stores, and he's doing revolution and helping them grow their shop awareness locally. But they can't. So here's the problem: they can't survive that way. And the ones that are surviving are the ones that are going to the World Wide Web, and they're putting up their second store, which is an online store for pennies on the dollar, what they do to their brick and mortar. The brick and mortar, they've got electric and, gas and water and all these other expenses and rent that they don't have online. They have hosting and, maybe a tech person and some, minor fees to build it once like they would have built out their other shop, and then they're good to rock and roll. And that's where the demand is. And I posted something on your wall the other day, and I thought to myself after I did it, I was like, oh, that sound, in text it sounds so one-sided because I was being kind of harsh on the shop owners. Yeah. But the reality is, and here's the reality. Yeah. The reality is that I can go, and I do this all the time. I love my local shop owners, but this is not going to sound like I do when I make this comment. Yeah. But I travel extensively. My daughter, my oldest, is a pro golfer, as many of my family members on Facebook know, and I travel with her around the world. And I will walk into a shop, whether it's in Australia or it's in Arkansas or wherever, and I don't want to pick on anyone because I love them all, but I'll walk in and I'll just play dumb and they don't know who I am. And if I'm getting an air, which is more than half the time, I don't get, someone's walking into your house. You're selling stuff in your house.
Right. So are you going to say that they're rude? So here's the thing that's so interesting. This is a big problem. This is a huge problem. The shops are not welcoming. So I don't understand that. So my daughter is awesome. She also shaved her head, half of it, and then the other half is blue hair. And she actually is the one who buys all the fabric. She's my colorist, right? She buys everything. Right. And when she goes to a shop, we buy a lot. And about 50% of the time, they're not nice to her. And I just think, like, this is, okay, so here's my idea. You're a brand person. This is what I want to do with our brand. Is one of the things I would love to do is be like, I just want to quilt. You're totally going to swipe this idea, which is totally okay. But maybe we can work on it together. But I just want to quilt shop, which is a little sticker. Like, I just want to quilt friendly shop. Like, the idea is that they pledge to not judge their customers, to be kind to everybody, who basically is just be kind, right? So just because it's a man, or just because it's a trans kid, or whoever it is, don't assume that that we're all worthy of your attention and your kindness. And these shops just don't. I don't know what they think they're doing, but it's kind of amazing to me. Now, they're always super nice to me now, right? They weren't always nice to me, but now they do know who I am, which is just silly, because I've usually set it up so that I could come interview them or whatever. But it's weird. I don't understand why they think that that's okay. It's a little bit like the bike shops. You know how, like, bike shops sometimes have attitude? You know, I added the bike shop attitude on fancy bikes. It's a little bit like that, too. I don't know. I don't know what you do with that. That's weird, don't you think?
I think, unfortunately, that's just people stereotyping each other.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I make sure when I walk in, I'm not carrying in maybe a tote or a bag that I've made. So, which I have now made a lot of. And it's funny, people will go, Georgina, how can you just sit down and you're just like whipping together this thing? And I go, well, it's like riding a bike. I mean, I've sewed for so many years. Right. I can just pick it up and keep going.
It really is, isn't it? It's weird, right?
It is. I'm still learning like some of the catchphrases and stuff. But I mean, I know how to do it. I just don't know what the new phrases are. So my wonderful group is teaching me as I go. But I love, I love walking into a shop. And if I feel that air, then I will look at them and I'll go, hey, do you have a sewing machine to rent? Just to watch the reaction.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And, they'll be like, oh, you're new. You don't know how to sew. And then there's a whole other persona. But that's part of me doing my case study. Like, if I don't do that, I don't explore that behavior, then I can't teach about it in November at the quilt show, right? And the reality is, and here's the beautiful thing, if shop owners can realize, and consumers have already figured this out, but if shop owners can realize that they can set up their second store online, and some of those problems that they have, with their potential customers in the brick and mortar store goes away, because you don't know what that, I mean, that's the thing. That's why people go to the internet to buy. People think, shop owners say to me, oh, well, they're just price hunting. No, I'm telling you that people in my group, and maybe I just have an exceptional group, I probably do, but people in my group are loyal to the shops I marry them with. Yeah. And, they're just very loyal. And these shop owners, we just started something new. And I said, you know what? We're going to expand, because we changed the name. We're going to expand to specialty quilts. So here's the interesting thing I want to tell you, Elizabeth, is that I told each one of these shop owners, we're going to do something new. We're going to do it and see if it works. And we're all going to pick a quilt, including myself, because I can't expect to know your world if I don't buy fabric through my shop owners, and I don't kit a quilt myself and understand the pains of shipping it and lose money. I can't relate to you. So all of us, all six of us, are going to pick something, a quilt, a pattern, something, and we're all going to kit it. And we're going to sell just that. And guess what? None of us are going to compete with each other.
That's really
And they're kind of like, okay.
Yeah, that's so interesting too, right?
Huh?
That's what's so interesting too. Even like when you see local shops, they're not working together. They feel in competition with each other, which I think is super weird too. Which is what you're saying.
It is.
Like, I mean, sometimes they'll do a shop hop or something like that, but the rest of the year they're not collaborative. They're competitive, which is really weird.
But I'll tell you, all of these shop owners, it's been posted about 10 days. And they have all contacted me, goes, wow, the demand from this group to have unique items, number one. These are unique quilts that maybe they're very, like I picked a quilt called Easy Sunday. It's got 29 fabrics in it. And my mom supplied me with the fabrics. And so I've got some local folks that work in my local quilt shops who will be helping me. We're going to be cutting, kitting, shipping. And I understand the pains. I can't ship at the shipping prices I quoted. So that goes on the list to solve for the group. But what's so interesting is all these shop owners are like, the demand that I'm bringing to them for their unique items and the fact that they're not competing against each other, like getting someone else's quilt, then they're getting that exclusive demand. It's been great. And they understand the buying power now of servicing a unique group for what they want. And this is a long story to get back to your answer.
Yeah.
Is buying power came from listening to your consumers and getting them solutions to what they want. And then you have the buying power.
That's really interesting. That's so interesting.
So
really interesting.
I just gave a big hint to what one of my topics is going to be in November. So,
well, I think this is so cool. This is so great, and I'm going to be in Houston. Are you? So I can't wait to meet you and spend time with you if you got time.
Yeah. Well, you'll have to go to dinner with me and the K Facet Mystery Quilt Sport Group because we're all getting together. We're getting together everywhere I go. We have dinners that we get together.
That's really great.
And then we're gonna carpool over to the Quilt History Museum.
Oh my goodness! Yes, it's about 100. Yeah, it's a bit of a walk, a bit of a drive, but yes, that's fantastic. That sounds great.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Okay, so. Oh my goodness, so many things to talk about. So I think in some way, it's really interesting that, do you see that before you started working with your shops, first of all, there's independent shops trying to figure this all out on their own, and that seems to me insane. Do you feel the same way about that they're all trying to and this is a very complicated, complex world, social media and promotion and connecting and all the things they're doing. It's sophisticated at this point, and yet they're kind of all doing it from scratch each time.
Okay, well, I get that question a lot, but not just in this industry, right? Across all of the industries we work with, and it's not complicated to your 12-year-old when you don't know how to fix that stupid app on your phone, right?
That's true.
You walk over to the youngest kid in the family, whether it be your grandkid or your child or whatever, and you say, hey, can you fix this for me? And they pick it up and they do it. It's inherent to them, and boom, it's done, right?
Yeah.
So I think the fear of the unknown is what's paralyzing shop owners from going and getting further education.
Do you think time? So even if, first of all, there's a lot of people out there, like, your ideas are incredible, right? But there's a lot of people that are claiming they know how to teach you social media, and they're not that great. So that's the other problem, right? Is that, like, you need somebody who's really like a professional that can be creative to think about. That's what I mean, or at least to get you thinking about how to be creative in a way that's going to be effective. Does that make sense? Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, it does.
That.
And I think here's the problem. Okay, so last November when my mom came to me and I said, listen, I've got to learn before I can help. So I've got to learn. I went in November, sat through some classes.
Uh-huh.
I was appalled by the things that were being said, kind of like, go do all this. And it's on the technology side, right? That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I think we might. There's some people there that are incredible that I really adore, but there was at least one of them that I went to that was like, we probably were in the same room together. That it was very. It just felt a bit outdated.
Are you still there? Did I lose you?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So was this at Quilt Festival? Is that what you were talking about?
Yeah, Quilt Festival. So then I made contact with the educators, and I went out to Portland and sat through some more classes. And there's some people that are they're just pitching their own solutions. Yeah. So A, let's put them in one category. And then B, there's other people that are truly trying to teach and help. And I think that they are giving the right messages, but they're making it so painful and so scary that shop owners are like, I can't do all this. I don't have the resources to do all this. And I don't blame them, because that's like you and I picking up, the iPhone and setting all the settings like the kids do today in minutes. Yeah. It takes us a lot longer. And especially they can, kids can text under the table without looking with their thumbs and get a whole conversation going. Like they got it down. So it really became apparent to me in May that if I'm going to come speak in November, and I approached Island Boutique and Ebony, and I'm going to leave it at that. And they were great. They really see how to work on the future and not
Island
make
Boutique
shop
does.
owners, figure it out. They just hand them solutions.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want to be part of that. I want to provide a solution that's set up and ready to go, and all you have to do is write your name down on the line.
Yeah.
And I think if we could get,
because it needs to be kind of like almost like its own product, is what you're saying. That we shouldn't have like
it needs to be turnkey.
Right?
It needs to be. We need the teachers and the people with the knowledge, and there becomes a lot of responsibility with power. When you have that power, you have the responsibility to help other people in an easy way. That's my view.
Yeah.
And
I totally agree.
so, so you have to give back.
Yeah.
Like, it just brings a lot of joy to give back. And hopefully something will monetize for you and you won't lose money in the process. But that's not where you start with that effort. And, you have to really sit down and go, I want to provide shop owners solutions, and they can learn as they go why this works.
Yeah.
And I want to applaud my focus group, my quilt shop. So on Facebook, we have a focus group, Quilt Shop Owners, and that's a Facebook group. And it was small. We had 13. I just expanded it to 30. But they help me so much. They help me learn what works and what doesn't work. They teach me, and if they weren't committed to me, I wouldn't be able to prove that this works.
Yeah.
And
so what are you going to do?
I'm really grateful to them.
So with your focus group, what's your next step then in terms of?
Say that again?
What's your next step? So you're learning, and you have this focus group, and you're trying things out. Sort of, what do you where do you think this is leading to, with your work?
That's a great question. A lot of people have asked me that, and my answer up to now has been, I'm trying to find myself. I'm trying to figure out where I fit in this whole big world, right? And this is a hobby of mine, a necessity of my mom's, and it's really grown into a passion for me. And I think the first step for me is to set up some programs for shop owners that are ready to just execute, or they're already executed and market. They can just sign up for it and just be a part of it. Really, I have to be honest, naysayers and negative people are not welcome. And it is my sandbox, right? We always talk about Google sandbox. And if you want to be the top of Google search engine, you have to play by their rules and their sandbox. It is my sandbox.
Mine too. I feel the same way about my project. It's like, this is my fun space. So you have to like I could deal with awfulness in my regular job, but this is my fun time. So it's gotta stay fun,
And we have to respect each other.
Yeah.
And we are different. Everyone is different. And guess what? If you're a shop owner, you're probably an A+ personality.
Yeah.
So you have to go into it knowing that everyone's going to have different opinions. Everyone's going to have strong personalities. But we can work together. And this group is proving that they can monetize together. They can grow together. And guess what? They are getting revenue while they sleep. They are sleeping and waking up, and their sales boom, boom, boom on their website.
That's
so
really great.
That's really the joy in this. That's the proof.
Yeah.
So
cool.
I think that now, that's one thing I'm doing is I'm doing that, and the second thing that is becoming apparent to me, and this is a more difficult struggle for me, is that people need the knowledge of how to build, let's say, their own mailers on a regular basis, which is the number one revenue generator for shop owners. So if you miss that part, I'm going to repeat it.
Yeah.
Email blasts and responsible newsletters are the number one source of recurring revenue for shop owners. So I said it twice.
Yeah.
It is so important, if shop owners are listening to this, that's how you're going to get more sales. And staying in front of people in a responsible way, not spamming them, understanding those parameters. And I want to teach that. But every time I've done an online class, like a Zoom meeting like you're doing, I get one sign up. I get like 100 people
really
say I want to attend, and one person takes the time to sit through it.
That's really interesting.
They just don't want to educate themselves.
Yeah.
So,
and we're trying to work on that part too. We should chat off recording about that, because we're putting together. We're trying to think about what would be helpful to people from our perspective. So from the legal side of it. Because we see a lot of people don't have.
I mean, I think that's the heartbreaking thing in this is that, it's your business. It's the way you're paying your bills. Why aren't you educating? Find the time to educate and evolve.
Yeah.
It's not pleasant for me to go to back to a word camp and sit as an attendee through a boring lecture. But you know what? The second lecture and the third lecture, like we'll sit there for 3 days, me and my team, and 90% of it we already know. But if we come away with one new thing that we learned, that's just amazing for us, right?
Yeah.
And it's worth the time. And if I can do it, so can a shop owner.
All right, so let me ask you. I know you have questions to ask me, and I have questions to ask you. So, and we've got 15 minutes. So, before the next call. I think I stacked them wrong today. So things are a little chaotic today. Just Wanna Quilt. So we've been up five months, and we are now at the stage of like, what do we do with this thing, and should we grow it? What should we be doing? What we are is a group that really is about experiencing the quilt industry, and having a space to talk about that. And then having sort of academic side, the academic kind of overlay, that it goes back into my research. But we are now we haven't done much. I mean, we're still small. We're about 1,000 in our quilting army. But now we're going to have a booth at Houston Quilt Festival. And we have 150 podcasts. 100 of them have been posted. And so we're growing in this crazy way. And we're interviewing people like you and others that are kind of really about understanding this sort of the underbelly of the quilting industry. So I'm not sure where we go from here. Do you have any thoughts? Can you maybe we could talk about that in another session? But I would love for you to think about.
I'm going to have a lot of thoughts about that.
You do? Awesome.
And I would love to talk about that in another session, because I think the admins of base groups don't understand enough about proprietary works and patterns and copyright and. If you come into my group and you really kind of search on that word copyright, you're going to see some banter, light banter about, no, you can't post that. Like Kate's pattern in this mystery quilt is proprietary. It's not public. You can't post the pattern in my group.
Right.
You can't post pictures on maps and instructions. Yeah. And I did qualify that early on with Free Spirit. They came to me, I think, March, and I said, look, this is what I want to protect. I feel very passionate about that. They had been secret members for a while, and I got the applaud and said, "Great, thank you." And by the way, you can use some of our photos of his fabrics with, giving us acknowledgement. Right. And that's what happens is there's a lack of knowledge. Right. People just go out and create these Facebook groups, and they don't understand the responsibility they have.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is a whole other topic and a whole other segue.
Yeah, I think that'd be great. Well, we have people on multiple times because we're not like a talk show. We're just let's learn about stuff. So I would love for you to be one of our regulars and come on and talk about whatever you'd like to talk about every so often if you're interested. We've got a number of people.
I would love to do that, and you can give me a punch list so I don't ramble.
No, I think it's great. And then you had questions for me. We have about 10 minutes left. Was there a question? Was there anything you wanted to ask me about today, or did you want to do that off recording?
Yeah, I'd like to do that offline when you have time.
Sure. All right. So here's our plan. Next steps is sign up again. Sign up again soon, or you and I can figure out a time to chat, because this week is very flexible for me. And let's think through sort of other topics we want to talk about, because I think you are amazing, and I suspect that others will find you amazing as well and want to hear more from you. So
could you guys write into my kids and let them know that?
Totally. Yeah. Can you write to mine?
No, I have great kids.
Yeah, we should just have a mutual hey, your mom is awesome. Did you know that? We totally need a campaign. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you so much for having me today.
Oh,
I really
think you're
appreciate
amazing. This is so cool. I feel very connected to you because, I've been on this journey for about a year. I'm sort of seeing, and, I'm trying to see what the role of law and creativity is, but I'm kind of doing the same exploration that you're doing, but in just a slightly different way. As I said, I really do think there is potential and opportunity for us to write together, like an article or something like that, because it seems like we are exploring. It's just, I really love to do at some point a conference where we bring
I would love
everybody
to do
together.
that. We'll carve some time to be together, because I have a couple things that are published, but I'd love to do something together. I would love it.
Yeah, I really do. I think we're just because the fact that you and I have been doing this at the exact same time, we know a lot of really weird things that no one else knows because of the way we're exploring, which is so interesting, right? So I think, thinking through what have we learned this year? And sort of, I know we both have more to learn, but we both have learned a lot in a year, I would imagine.
Yeah,
right.
I'm still learning. I'm scared. If this is what I've learned in a year, I've got a lot more to learn. Going to have a lot more coffee. Right? But it's all good stuff.
Yeah, and is it more? Are you surprised by this industry and what you found? I am.
I am. I'm shocked. I'm shocked. A little scared that there's so much education that needs to happen. The consumers are very in-depth, and they're very in tune to what's going on. And I think we have to move and shift responsibly and quickly, Yeah,
I feel like that on the legal side of it. There's a bit of archaicness and archaic thinking when people have really moved past the issues that people are concerned about. In the rest, in major industries, they've already figured this out. And so how do you sort of get them up to speed to recognize that, the worries they have are not the same worry? They have kind of misplaced worries like that, and that's kind of where I'm at this point is people will ask me a question. I'm that's not the right question to be asking. That's really, not in an arrogant way, but I'm just thinking wow, that's not the question I would be asking, Did I lose you? I think I lost.
I think that I think that the problem initially is going to be getting them to market to sit in a class.
Yeah.
And they're going to have to, if we can get people, we're not shop owners right now, because we have consumer issues too, right? So we have consumer issues as well. But getting the shop owners to realize that there's a problem is the first step. Getting the shop owner to realize that there is a solution that will help ease their day and help them make payroll if they want to grow, and it's not hard, and you got to go learn. If we can get that message out at the boots ground level and get them to want to learn, you can only bring a horse to water, right? So if we can get them to want to learn, then it really becomes the burden of I think, the technology people that are sitting there speaking, to not say, oh, this is how you go do it, and show them a 20-item list that puts fear into them so they'll just pay you. Wrong. It's about giving them a solution that's already working for a very reasonable fee and get them down the path.
Yep.
That's really the first step. Well, that's how I see it.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. It really does. Well, you're just this is great. See, we can't go a half hour. There's no way. So, what do you need to do? There's too much to talk about. That's it. So, do you need to review this before I post it, or are you cool with me posting it?
I'm cool with you posting it.
Awesome. All right, cool. Well, hold on. I'm going to turn off the recording, and thank you again. This has been such a fast hour. It's crazy.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
All right, hold on. So this is Elizabeth Townsend Guard. You've been listening to Just Wanna Quilt, a research podcast coming out of Tulane University Law School. We want to hear from you. Join our army, our quilting army. Go to our Facebook page. Suggest people